I would like to take you on a journey through the world of energy and give you a perspective into the human mind as it attempts to confront life-altering changes. Our journey will begin with a brief history of energy, its implications for human society, and the complex roles it plays in sustaining the 7 billion people who now inhabit our fragile planet. From energy, we will move to the psychology of how humans attempt to process information that demands self-reflection and fundamental changes in behavior. We will break down denial and apply its structure to the behaviors and attitudes we see around us today, from multinational corporations to politicians to middle America. We will speak with people who are just hearing about our energy concerns and those that are making changes in their lives to adapt to it. We will also hear from those that flat out deny that there is any serious concern regarding the future of energy and humanity's relationship to it. Of course, any subject that demands one to consider deep inner reflection in dire circumstances cannot be without hope. Without hope, there would be no point in concerning ourselves with such matters, as there would be no opportunity for resolution. In that regard, we will finish the program with solutions. We will cover the various possibilities that the future of energy decline may hold, from the apocalyptic to the ecotopian. And as always, the most plausible scenarios will be somewhere in the middle. I want to relay the importance of these solutions now, so that you are not misled in thinking that a solution will be a simple process of voting for the right politicians or buying the right products. The changes that will have the most lasting and positive effect will be changes that happen within each of us, changes that demand a reevaluation of our life goals, values, and dreams. If you think that this is something that you would be willing to do if the situation demanded it, then I implore you to continue watching and to research more on the issues covered in this program. In order to explain how energy works, we must first define what energy is and how it functions. Energy is most commonly referred to as the ability to do work. The dictionary defines energy as the capacity for vigorous activity, available power. Energy exists in many forms, from human and animal labor to the powerful fuel-based combustion engines of today. Energy can be exerted in the case of a combustion engine that turns a crankshaft. Energy can be stored, as in a battery, and energy can be transferred, as it is, in power lines across great distances. Before the discovery of coal and oil, energy was primarily attained from human or animal labor, or from fire in the form of heat, as well as solar energy from the sun in the form of photosynthesis. In those times, humans lived a very simple life of farming and raising livestock. During this time, the population remained fairly steady at about 1 billion people worldwide. In the early 1800s, coal became a popular energy source for heating homes. Coal worked well for heating and for powering early steam engines, but it wasn't until the widespread use of oil began around 1885 that the energy-fueled technology era began. With the advent of the technological era, the abundant energy of oil allowed for new advances in farming, medicine, and refrigeration. These new technologies allowed humans to be more productive, as well as the ability to live longer, healthier lives. Before oil, population was limited to what it could produce with human and animal labor. This kept the population in check. But as the population began to swell in the late 1800s, new problems emerged. If the question was asked, what is the greatest discovery of mankind? The discovery of oil would have to be seriously considered. For the majority of the technological inventions of mankind were only made possible with the powerful energy provided by oil. Oil is so energy dense that 1 barrel of oil is equal to 25,000 hours of human labor. Just 1 gallon of gasoline is equal to hundreds of hours of hard physical labor. Try pushing your car the approximately 20 or so miles 1 gallon of gas will move it. Energy, however, is not the only useful output of oil. Oil is the feedstock for many of our modern materials, such as plastic, pesticides, and a whole array of industrial chemicals used in the manufacture of countless products. The medical industry is highly dependent on many of the specialized plastics used in their equipment. Our current farming and transportation industries are entirely dependent on oil. Highways and roads require enormous amounts of oil, tar, and energy to build and maintain. Farming is no longer an act of working with the earth to keep a sustainable, healthy soil. It is now a technological process that requires massive inputs of oil and natural gas. First, the soil is tilled with an oil-powered tractor. Then the crops are planted with an oil-powered planter. And the soil is treated with an ammonia-based fertilizer derived from natural gas. An oil-powered plane comes along and drops pesticides made from oil onto the crops. Finally, an oil-powered harvester harvests the crops, and the oil-dependent transportation system delivers them to processing facilities and then on to the market. Cars, trucks, jets, ships, all require enormous energy inputs of various kinds to manufacture and continue to consume huge amounts of oil to operate throughout their lifetime. Oil is extremely energy dense. It is the most energy dense material in use today, and there are no substitutes that can even come close to its caliber. So with that in mind, let's look at the so-called alternatives. The hunt for alternative energies gained momentum in the early 70s when the first real concerns about the supply of oil began to emerge. In order to properly explain the alternatives, we must understand the form in which energy is available and usable. We will divide the alternatives into two categories: liquid fuels and electricity generators. Currently, the majority of our electricity and transportation energy comes from liquid fuels, and in order to continue life as we have known it in the 20th century, we would need to find a liquid replacement for gasoline. So let's start with the alternatives that would provide liquid energy. Ethanol, hydrogen, and thermal depolymerization are considered energy carriers, not energy sources, as it takes huge amounts of energy to perform the various processes of producing these fuels. They are actually energy sinks. Ethanol and other biofuels are produced from vegetation, using an energy-intensive process to convert the cellulosic material into a combustible liquid. There are three distinct issues with plant-based biofuels that discount their ability to replace oil-based fuels. The first issue with the sustainability of biofuels is scale. In order to produce enough biofuel from corn, soybeans, or any other crops, we would need more land to grow these crops than is currently available on our planet. The second problem with biofuels is that the plants used to process these fuels are grown using the industrial agricultural system, which is itself highly dependent on oil and natural gas, as discussed previously. And finally, the energy needed to process the plant matter into biofuel is more than what the biofuel provides when used in an engine. This is what is known as an energy sink. Thermal depolymerization, or the converting of waste material into liquid fuel, is also subject to the same physics as biofuels, and the processing energy required makes thermal depolymerization an energy sink as well. Hydrogen as well is an energy sink, as it takes more energy to separate the hydrogen molecules from the water than you get from burning the hydrogen. While ethanol and the fuel produced by thermal depolymerization may be able to power existing engines with slight modifications, hydrogen would require replacing the entire liquid fuel infrastructure, from the tanks and mechanisms of distribution to the engines that would burn it. We simply do not have enough energy available to convert the entire fuel-based infrastructure to support hydrogen as a primary fuel. Wind, solar, hydroelectric, tidal, and geothermal energy sources produce electricity and can be made to be primarily sustainable. However, their output is minimal and would only be of significant use at the point of production. They can never be scaled up to support the electricity demands of today. And if we wanted to go this route, it would again require the rebuilding of the entire fuel-based infrastructure to electric motors, and there just isn't enough energy available for that kind of transformation. At this point, you should have a good idea of the predicament we are in. We have used up over half of the world's energy resources that our technological civilization depends on, and thus we are faced with a daunting challenge. It may have been possible when we first discovered these vast energy resources to build a sustainable, electrically powered infrastructure, leaving the combustion engine to a few specialized operations, such as mining, logging, and building infrastructure. However, we have gone past the point of no return as far as our energy resources are concerned. We now have a serious dilemma. We must figure out how to continue to support 7 billion people as the energy that keeps our industrial system afloat declines on a daily basis. There are no easy solutions, and certainly none that will allow us to continue our way of life as we have known it this last century.
Rather than focus on what will be lost, let's focus on what can be created. Let's keep our heads up and our minds open as we venture into this new terrain. We need options, and one of those options is called transition.